Tracy Martin.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mr Chair. Rise on behalf of New Zealand First, will we be voting against this bill? Our concerns are predominantly around the voice of community, actually, inside this legislation. And particularly there's a supplementary order paper in my name which deals predominantly with Part 2. And the heading of, in Clause 14, the heading of Clause 14, line 25 on page 8, would change that sentence to the Arts Council to designate community arts providers, to make it a definitive statement that they will designate community arts providers. And if one goes to Clause 15, then Clause 15, Part 1, the Arts Council must allocate funding to a designated community arts provider. And Clause 16, Part 1, the Arts Council must establish community arts councils in relation to specific geographical areas. We believe that without a directive for this to be done, that actually the creation of this Arts Council and the removal of several bodies, the two particular, the Māori representative body and the Pacifica representative body, is really a centralisation of this decision-making. And I quote the Minister in his second reading speech, where he talks about the bill removes the requirement for the Arts Council to provide a strategic plan every 3 years, a pointless exercise if ever there was one. This requirement is considered to be an unnecessary duplication of the obligation to provide a statement of intent under the Crown Entities Act 2004. I remember from my time in Creative New Zealand that no sooner had one completed one strategic plan than the whole exercise had to start again. It was an utter waste of time. That was the Minister in his second reading speech. And it's the very voice of community that is the reason why New Zealand First will be opposing this bill. The Minister in that statement, strategic plans, along with the designated desire to distribute these funds down to a community level. A strategic plan means you have to go out and you have to talk with communities, the people of New Zealand, whose money it is. And this centralisation puts into, in this way, through this bill, puts into the hands of a very select group of selected people, selected by the Minister, and now with no requirement to do a strategic plan by which goes out for any public consultation, and no actual requirement, they may establish community arts councils, they may allocate funding, they might do this and they might do that. But there's no requirement for them to do so. And once again, it will be rural New Zealand that misses out. It will be rural New Zealand and places like Warkworth who's going to have, with the funding that it received through the arts funding, through this grant in the last few years, is going to have the most amazingly mosaicked town clock inside the centre of their town, and they deserve it just like any other taxpayer of New Zealand deserves it. But it will be those rural communities whose voices, we are concerned, will not reach this committee, and hence why we are seeking to change Part 2 through my supplementary order paper. My colleague will address some of the other concerns we have when she seeks a call later on, sir, but we just want to reiterate that without a strategic plan, how can really the people of New Zealand know where this council is going to go to? And how, without a strategic plan and the consultation around it, how truly can this council gain the voice of New Zealanders? The New Zealanders on the ground who pay their taxes every day and who want to see tutus on tour, who want to have their waterfronts have surprise art all over it, just as much as anybody in the centre of Auckland or anybody walking down the Wellington waterfront. And these are the voices that we believe, without this changed supplementary order paper, these are the voices that we believe will be cut out of this equation. And we also don't feel, and this will be expanded on by my colleague, that the 4 seats for Māori and 2 seats for Pacifica is adequate. Without any community voice in anywhere else inside this legislation, then the removal of these seats not only lessens, but it tips that balance of input from those communities, that we all recognise and respect their cultural input to the arts and cultures that make up us as New Zealanders. Some of the things that we are famous for overseas, some of the reasons why we are actually at the top of the digital market.
I call Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.